So this podcast we do, Dirt Nap City. Alex, you're familiar with it, right?
Yeah, I'm sure.
And Al from Austin, you're familiar with it?
I think I've heard of it, but go ahead. What do you got?
Well, we like to focus on interesting dead people every other week, and then every other week we also like to focus on a trend that has disappeared, gone away. We call those dead ends. And today I have a dead end that is about a certain breed of people who were very underrated, unsung heroes, if you will. You know, what would be an example of an unsung hero? You guys' opinion?
I would say teachers.
That's good.
Custodians.
Yeah. Alex, any thoughts on unsung heroes?
Just a type of person who's not.
No, like a vocation.
Yeah, those are good.
I
ones.
I guess
teachers.
I guess law enforcement, firemen, firewomen. All that. Well,
librarians.
They are underrated. This goes back a ways. This goes back into Europe centuries ago. One of the things that they started doing in Europe a long time ago was something that we still do today. It was a recreational sport, but it was not as automated as it is today. It was called 9-pin bowling. And they would roll these heavy balls down a lane or a lawn or whatever and knock over these heavy pins. And this was pretty popular. I mean, back in even like the days of the kings and monarchs, I think they even did this bowling thing. Well, what happened is 9-pin actually came over to the US, but it got banned because a lot of people were gambling. They were gambling in 9-pin. And so they started playing 10-pin. That's how we came to have 10-pin over here. A little different. But
I like that workaround. It's not 9 pins. We got 10 pins.
That changed the fact that somebody were gambling on it. Well,
you can't gamble on 10 pins. I don't know. I don't know how that came to be. But basically in 1895 in New York City, they standardized the rules because a lot of these rules were made up back then. It was kind of like house rules for whatever you were doing. And the American Bowling Congress, also known as ABC, formed, and they created the rules for 10-pin. Well, guess what? There were guys, only guys really, I don't think any girls did this. Their job was to set up the pins. Do you know what they were called?
Pinsetters?
Pinsetters, yes.
We
yes.
both got that one.
Yeah, excellent. I think it was a softball. These guys would sit in the back and they would set up the pins before there were machines. They were human pin setters. And guess what? They were usually kids or young teenagers. These were small people that could fit back in these tiny spaces behind the bowling lanes. Have either of you been back into the back area of a bowling alley to see how that all works?
No.
So my nephew's actually got a friend in Houston that his family owns a bowling alley, and we've been back there, and it's quite a sight to see how it all works today. But go back to the early 1900s, even 1920s, 1930s. There were kids back there whose job was to reset the pins as quickly as possible, clear away the fallen pins, reset the pins, replace the bowling ball or return it by rolling it back down. And then sometimes these kids even had to keep score.
Oh, wow.
And you're saying these people are unsung heroes?
Yes, absolutely. Pin setters.
So I actually have a friend from grad school. When he was a kid, he would go to probably like the Knights of Columbus Hall with his dad, and he was a pin setter. They had a bowling alley.
I wish you had told us that. We should have had him on.
Yeah, we can do a secondary report on that.
Well, this is a one-time thing. Send in this episode, though. Well, so you know what they called the space behind the bowling alley? It was kind of this cramped area where the ball hits all the pins. It was called the pin deck. So they'd sit back there and they'd wait for these pins for the person to bowl. They would grab the pins and try to set them back up. And then they would roll the ball back down the little chute that it comes back. There was no automation on this. So it was manual labor, but it also required really fast reflexes because guess what? It was dangerous. Can you think of some reasons it was dangerous?
Well, according to Rick, as people continued to drink beer and get drunk, they would try to hit them with the balls.
Oh, that's mean. That's me. I wasn't even factoring in mean drunks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I was in Chicago a few years ago and somebody was talking about a bowling, I think they call it by bowling centers, not bowling alleys these days.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's
And
more high class.
I think there is one who still has manual pinsetters.
There are a few.
Yeah.
You can actually find them on YouTube. You can find some places. They're usually 1 or 2 lane kind of things. But I mean, in addition to the drunks trying to hit you on purpose, these bowling pins are heavy and they go flying at a high velocity. And so they could just take a weird bounce and bounce up and hit you. You got to be ready for that. There's ricochet. You ever heard of that? Ricochet?
Do they wear a helmet? Do they wear
It's
helmets?
a German. No. There weren't helmets back then.
No,
they didn't even wear.
The ones now wear helmets.
Oh, no. They gotta be authentic. You can't be a pinsetter with a helmet. But think about this. This is kind of the other thing that nobody took into account. These pinsetters would go deaf because it was so loud back there.
Oh, yeah.
And they didn't wear ear protection. So these are teenage boys that are back there and they're doing it for either free games. You know, sometimes they would get to play free games if they pin set for a while. They would get tips, but they didn't really make much money on an hourly basis. Now, do you know how much a 10-pin bowling pin weighs?
No.
Well, there's not an exact amount. It's actually somewhere between 3.6 ounces and 3 pounds 6 ounces and 3 pounds 10 ounces. But you know, the whole Einstein thing.
That's not that heavy.
But when it's going fast, 3 pounds headed towards your head. You know, they say if you have a box of Kleenex in your car and you slam on your brakes, that box of Kleenex could kill you, could hit you in the back of the head and kill you. Yeah. So you got a 3 pound 10-pin bowling pin. You've got bowling balls that weigh between 8 and 15 pounds. You ever seen a heavier one than 15 pounds?
No.
Oh, I think 15 is usually the top. You've got hard maple wood that is tough, holds up to impact. You've got this plastic coating that goes over the out of the pin.
Why aren't they wearing helmets then?
Because people didn't wear helmets on
I'm talking
bicycles.
about the ones now, Kelly.
Authenticity.
And since we have a safety expert here, why is that not an OSHA violation?
I think it's more of a child labor law violation than, at this point than
why are there still children doing this?
Right.
Maybe it's considered a hobby. I don't know. Well, the interesting thing about bowling pins is that they have a weighted core and it's down low to kind of give them a low center of gravity. But it's kind of like if you've ever thrown a hatchet. You know, one end of a hatchet is thicker and heavier than the handle. It kind of does this whoosh, whoosh, whoosh thing. And that was the big thing is they would come at you and you would think, oh, it's not that bad. But then if the whoosh part hits you, the heavy part hits you, it would knock you the heck out.
I have no interest in doing that, by the way. Don't invite me to that. I've been invited to that a couple times. I am scared to death of throwing a hatchet.
I thought you meant pin setting.
I was like,
guarantee both of you had done it, but I'm not interested.
How about this, Alex? We'll go do it. You put an apple on your head, and we'll throw the hatchets.
I bet you both of you have done that, haven't you?
Yes.
Hatchets.
Yeah, I have thrown a hatchet. Yeah.
Probably together and separately, haven't you?
Never together.
Never together.
Is it fun?
It's satisfying when you get it.
Yeah,
it takes a little practice. It's weird what a little economy that's become. Like how hatchet throwing has popped up all over.
Seriously.
You know, along with reflexology, foot rubs, and
rage rooms.
Rage rooms.
I would actually rather do the lumberjack thing where you're on the rotating log and trying to run and not fall in the water than do hatchet throwing.
I've done that as well.
Have you really?
Yeah. So we spent a summer up in Madison, Wisconsin, and my son and I, we found a log rolling class, and they make it look so easy.
You thought it was something different than what it was? You're
It
like, oh,
is.
this is what they mean.
Well, it's not only spinning, but it's also bouncing back and forth like this.
Oh, did you guys just eat it?
Oh, all the time. And then actually, I fell on my shin and got this like jelly-like abrasion type thing on my shin, and that ended my career.
Well, so
Lumberjack career?
did you wear a helmet
Yeah.
doing that?
No.
Yeah. See. I mean, this is a sanctioned event, a class that you could take. You think when I do my penny farther, I'm going to wear a helmet? No. I'm just going to get up there and ride that thing like I'm my grandfather's rich boss.
By the way, if you're out there and want to financially support the penny farthing,
Yes.
we'll take money for that too. We need
maybe to get me a helmet or a shin guard. Well, so we talked a minute ago about the ears. The other big injuries were bruises, broken fingers, and that would happen. People would get a little too anxious and they'd try to grab the pin before it was stopped, and they would bruise their finger. Head injuries, like we were just talking about, cuts and scrapes. There were splinters. And splinters are not good. But then here's another one, kind of like hearing loss that you wouldn't expect. Strained knees and backs from crouching, twisting, and repetitive motion. You're kind of doing this whole thing like, what is it called? Carpal tunnel. I mean, this is much worse. Ankle, foot injuries, headaches. Again, hearing loss. Well, come along in 1940s, 1950s. There's a company called American Machine and Foundry. AMF. It was the company that actually they made all kinds of different things, but they were the first big U.S. manufacturer to make bowling ball pinsetters, and they're the kingpins of bowling ball pinsetters. Would you say?
I see what you did there.
So let's talk about how that works and what it does every time. So what's step one? I've rolled a strike, as I often do. I've rolled a strike. What happens next?
You got to clear the lane of fallen pins.
Yes, clear the fall. Well, let's say I rolled a split. All right, instead of a strike. So yeah, you clear the lane of fallen pins without knocking over the split that's still up there.
Yeah.
I mean, this is kind of mind-boggling. And then you've got to reset those two pins that were left in exactly the same spot, and then you got to send the ball back. So AMF came up with these different parts. So the thing that actually sweeps the fallen pins, you know what it's called?
Pin sweeper?
The sweep bar. The sweep bar. And then the thing, as we talked about before, the area of the lane where all this stuff happened was called the ball and pin pit. And then there were things called ball drops. This is what would drop the ball into the little conveyor belt that brings it up and sends it back down. And then the pins fall was the conveyor system that would actually take the fallen pins, bring them up to the top so they could be loaded into those things so they could come down for a fresh lane. Like when you, after you've, hit your split and then there's two left, sweep them all away, and then the pins fall would pick them up and start with 10 new pins.
Very cool.
Which you can't really gamble on. What do you guys think of bowling?
I'm kind of the same mind as axe throwing, and that is starts off kind of fun, but it lasts a very, very long time. And, if we could maybe bowl like 3 frames, I'd call it good.
Alex, any thoughts on that?
I always have fun when I go, but it's usually years before I go the next time. So...
It's the most fun thing to do in bowling, in my opinion, is you go get one of the kids' balls, like an 8-pound or a 6-pound or the lightest ball you can find with little tiny finger holes. Mm-hmm. And you take it and you put the tips of your fingers into it and you roll it with so much curve that it does a crazy kind of C shape, like it goes almost to the gutter and then comes back. That to me is what's fun about bowling. And every so often you'll do that and hit a strike. And it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, I agree. Getting the little light balls and doing that. I don't know how, actual bowlers, people who are good, are able to put the spin and the English. It's all in the wrist. It ain't me. It ain't me.
I think it's fun going bowling with kids when you have little kids to bring them and put up
what do you think about the bumpers?
I love it for little kids. I think that's perfect. Yeah.
You don't think that's kind of nanny state? Like what's the problem with kids today is they
I think it would be terrible if you're 8 years old and you're constantly bowling in the gutter. I don't think you would ever want to go back. I think the gutters make it fun.
And the way this is old technology now, but it was new probably the last time I bowled, was the fact that you could raise the gutters immediately for a child, and then an adult is behind them and they drop down, and so everybody can. That is awesome. I agree with you, Alex. Having that experience with your kid is fun. And
then they have these sort of new. I say new. They're still on old CRT TVs, but these newfangled scorekeepings with animations and trash talk in between. Like where it does a little trash talk animation when you get it or don't get it, which I think is kind of cool.
You guys remember though going bowling before all those things and having the transparency thing?
Oh yes.
You had to know how to keep score.
Yes,
and you couldn't just go bowling with nobody who had ever. A group of people who had never bowled before could not go.
What do you do with a spare?
That's why the sport never took off, because
it's too intellectual.
Well, you could never bowl for the first time without bringing somebody that already knew how to keep score, and it was so archaic. The scorekeeping system is so difficult to understand and to write it out, and they'd have those stupid transparency sheets.
It's just like remembering phone numbers was back then and is today. Like today, you don't have to know any of that. It just does it. It just, there's a camera or there's something that's keeping score for you and throw in those little cheesy animations. I wish I was a cheesy bowling animation maker.
I would argue that technology is dumbing us down. And I don't want to go bowling and have to know how to do it. But there was remembering a phone number and remembering, how to keep score and do some basic math is a lost art. And it's too bad.
Well, look who's Preachy McGee.
You got it.
Al from Austin.
So I would have loved Rick to share some of his experiences. You focused on setting the pins in one. Rick talked about doing two, both sides.
Yeah. And if you were a superstar,
he would do four. And
wow.
So, yeah. And
wow. That's legend.
I guess so. But
well,
he's deaf. He's deaf. Maybe that's why. No, he's not deaf. But
you know who is probably the most famous pinsetter of all time. Like he actually mentioned working as a pinsetter when he was young. He's also not alive at this point. But any guess on who our
Evil
most
Knievel.
that would work. That would work. No, it's kind of it's not in character with this guy at all. Malcolm X was a pinsetter.
Really?
Back in the day. Yeah.
Cool.
Well, that's pin setting. So go put your bowling shoes on and say thank you for the unsung heroes that made this sport what it is today. That and competitive eating, I feel like our country's heading in the right direction.
Stacking 10 white soldiers on a splintered wooden throne. Ball comes crashing past my knees, rubber flying, chips of paint. Duck and cover, count my fingers, say a quiet saints, ain't saints. We were pinsetter boys in a thunderstorm room, hands full of bruises, hearts full of boom, headaches ringing ears, dust in our lungs. Still we laugh louder than the crash of the rungs. Yeah, we stood in the shadows, chasing that noise, little kings of the alleys. We were pinsetter boys. Jimmy caught one in the forehead, slipped on scattered gravel, twisted up his wrist and froze. We stuffed cotton in our ears, still the crashes shook our ribs. Every frame another gamble, every paycheck little fibs. We were pinsetter boys in a thunderstorm room, hands full of bruises, hearts full of boom, headaches, ringing ears, dust in our lungs. Still we laughed louder than the crash of the runs. Yeah, we stood in the shadows, chasing that noise, little kings of the alleys. We were pinsetter boys. But when that last shift ended and the house lights started to fade, we slide out from the back doors, pocket change, pride we made. Calloused palms and crooked spines, but the world felt big and bright. We were built from fallen things that taught us how to rise. We were pinsetter boys in a thunderstorm room, hands full of bruises, hearts full of boom, scars on our knuckles, hum in our ears. Still we walk taller than our quiet fears. Now we tell the story, lift up our nose.